What is going on, guys? George, hooked on the fly too. Today we're going to be tying Mr. Crowley. If you guys never heard of Mr. Crowley, it's a pretty cool little pattern. Kind of goes along with the theme of the deer hair that we've been doing. So I'm proud to tie one for you. I've altered the material a little bit just because it's what I have. So let's not waste no more time. Let's get down to the vise and let's tie up Mr. Crowley. Here we go. Alright, here we got is a PR610 in size number 2. We have some UTC 140 tan thread. We brought it to the point of the hook there. We don't want it too far back. We're going to tie in our marabou by the tip, and we're going to palmer it about 5 turns. That's all we're going to do on this portion, but when you do palmer it, just make sure you stroke all those fibers so they're not twisted or anything like that. You definitely want that marabou to flow. That's what makes that tail to really kick. Tie that off and bring your thread on top of some of that marabou. Then advance your thread towards the front of the hook. Judge about 5 turns of your marabou, how much room you need, and you're going to palmer that as well. As you're palmering this, like I said, make sure nothing's getting tangled. It's very crucial that this tail is kicking and creating a ton of motion. Tie that marabou off, cut off your stem here, and then you're going to clean up the head a little bit. You're going to come in with some gold flash boot. This is super thin stuff. You do about 2 strands on each side. That's all you need. If you get 3 or 4 in there, that's perfect. You just want it to be a little oomph, a little sexiness. And then on top, I'm going to come in with gold variant, and that is mallard flank. Tie it off, do a little whip finish, and add some Zappa Gap to it. Set that thing aside, and come in with your 650 size 1/0 hook, 26-degree bend. I'm going to tie in my wire on one side of the hook, and I'm going to let it extend past that 26-degree bend, and then I'm going to slide in my 2 beads along with the back fly that we just tied. Take that wire through the beads and keep that wire on that one side right on top of that other piece of wire you already tied in. Normally I tie my wire back into the bend, but with this fly, the way it swims, I want the beads towards the top of the hook, but I want them tight so they don't foul. Advance your thread forward and lock in your first strand of wire, and then lock in your other strand of wire as it's folded backwards. Cut off your stem and go ahead and secure that. Go forward and then bring that thread back. No need for Zappa Gap. Just come in with some UV polar chenille. This is in copper, and it's more like a copper white, but they call it copper. I'm going to take it about halfway up the shank, and as I'm taking it up the shank, I want to pull those fibers back, clean it up a little bit, and come in with another piece of marabou tied in with the tip first again. Break off that little tip and do about 5 turns. If you do 6, it's quite okay. If you do 4, it's quite okay. You just don't want to be using a bugger marabou while you're doing this. You really want that long, flowy stuff. Once you clean up this head here, we're going to come in with a Fairfly 3D brush. This is the 3D shrimp brush by Fairflies. With this, you're going to pull all the fibers back, and you're going to do about 3 turns. Once your 3 turns are done, go ahead and separate your fibers, secure, tie it in, and then come in with your wire cutter and cut that out. Clean up that head a little bit where you just tied it in, brush it out, and that's going to give you your broadness to your fly. Add another piece of marabou here and do another 5 turns, pulling all those fibers back. And when you're done with this, you should have a solid broad shoulders on this bait fish. I mean solid. Cut off that stem, clean up that head, and you are ready to start with your deer hair. I'm going to whip finish that, and then I'm going to come in with 200 denier in black GSP. But first, what I'm doing here, I'm stacking my deer hair. I'm going to measure it out, and I'm going to cut off all that extra access because I want to do a direct tie in right here. This is going to give you a nice little collar, 2 loose wraps. Pinch that hook tight. Hold it as tight as you can just so it doesn't wrap around all the way. And then as you're wrapping this, go forward and get tighter and tighter as you go through all that deer hair. There's your collar. Now come in with another stack of deer hair. Do 2 wraps again and let it spin all the way around. Now as you're spinning this and you're advancing your thread forward, just go tighter. The tighter you go on each turn, it's going to stop spinning on you. Stack that, pack it as tight as you can. Just stack it and then advance your thread right to the front and then come in with a small little stack of deer hair to just fill in that little gap. There's just a little gap, and you're going to see me struggling putting this on here. Even us that we tie on daily basis, we struggle sometimes. Tying is not the easiest thing you could do, and sometimes you got to manipulate things to make things work. I was having really hard time of trapping other fibers there. So once you get it in there, once again, just as you're going forward with your thread through that deer hair, just get it tighter and tighter, and then just get to the front of that hook eye and just do a couple half hitches. That's what I did. You could do whip finishes, whatever you prefer. Once you have that all done, then get your scissors out, cut that out. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in with a razor. But when I do this, I'm going to go really, really slow. I'm not going to go too deep, too fast. I'm just going to kind of give it like an outline. And I'm going to peek at it. I'm going to like, okay, we got this. And we start slowly taking more and more away. Just remember, when you're trimming deer hair, okay, this is what I have the biggest fear about, and what I had the biggest fear about when I first started, and why I never really tied with it. Once you screw up the head, then you got to redo it again. So don't trim away too much. Take your time, take a peek at it, and if you think you're good, just stop. If you go too far, you can't bring it back. So just take your time. You see how long this is taking me, and this is in fast forward motion. I really like my angles. I really want this to be like a lip diver when you fish with a spinning tackle. And I really want this head to be super slim. I want it to dig, and I want it to be so compact that it becomes like a popper and it floats right to the top. You could see how thin that is. I mean, compared to my razor, look how thin that head is. I'm just cleaning it up. I made it a wedge, and then I flattened the top so it looks like a digger. If you guys end up fishing this and you end up tying this, definitely tag me on Instagram, Hooked on the Fly 2. Let me know how you like this.